the mob did not like lone wolves. And so the Hideaway Club was what was known as a bottle club in D.C. There were many, many bottle clubs in D.C. They were basically leftovers from the speakeasy era. So these bottle clubs were set up as charitable organizations, so they wouldn't have to adhere to the saloon laws to close at a certain hour or stop serving alcohol at a certain hour, because people brought their own alcohol there. So, but these clubs became meeting points for the underworld of D.C. There's pimps and gamblers and prostitutes, and it was just a social club for criminals, really, is what they became. So Joe Nesline had a long-running feud with this guy, George Mad Dog Harding. Now, Harding himself was of Italian descent. I don't know what his true name was, but he was a lone wolf. He was a gun for hire, and he had an ongoing beef with Nesline. So that beef ended up in the Hideaway Club that certain night in 1951. And everybody knew that this a reckoning was going to be happening. It was common knowledge. So when Nesline went to use the restroom upstairs, in the balcony area of the Hideaway Club, George Harding pushed his way out. Just pushed the waitress aside and ran up the stairs after Nesline. Nesline knew that something was going to happen, and so he was waiting for him, and Nesline shot him in the stairway. Two police officers had already come in and heard the shots, went there, and arrested Nesline for shooting George Harding. At the trial, Nesline pleaded self-defense. His lawyer was Charlie Ford, a very well-known defense attorney in D.C. at the time. He was quite eloquent in his summation, stating by the laws of man, by the laws of God, by the laws of the District of Columbia, everybody has a right to protect themselves, and the jury believed him and acquitted Nesline. The judge was not happy with that verdict, because the judge knew Joe as a gambler and a gangster, and said, he should have been convicted for manslaughter at least. So the judge sentenced Nesline to 1 year in jail for possession of an illegal firearm and a $1,000 fine. So that he spent 1 year in jail. The backstory behind that, I believe, is a lot more than just a beef between two guys that ended at the stairwell at the Hideaway Club. I believe the story with Mad Dog Harding, he was Emmett Waring's bodyguard. He worked for Emmett Waring. But the problem, again, he was a drinker, was a womanizer. He beat up his girlfriend. He was bringing just too much bad publicity to the Warings. The Warings let him go. So this was a year before. So a year before, in 1950, Emmett Waring's house was robbed. There was a home invasion. 3 guys broke in, stole $100,000 from Emmett's home, took his diamond ring, and but basically they didn't rough him up or anything. Metropolitan Police Department investigated the home invasion, and they did come up with 3 suspects. They arrested them. The only one who was convicted of that home invasion was a guy by the name of Sidney Max Stromberg. Now, Stromberg was Nig Rosen Stromberg's little brother, so he was from Philly too. And Metropolitan Police Department managed to put together a good case against him. This because George had traveled to Philly. They found out about that. Sidney had signed into a hotel under a false name, and they compared his handwriting. So they had a pretty good case, and he was convicted of that. So Nesline always blamed Harding for his friend Emmett Waring's suffering that home invasion. So that was probably the real reason. Nesline had it in for Harding. But another twist to this story is that again, because Harding was such a loose cannon, a drinker, a womanizer, out of control, he had to go. As far as, because Nesline was in charge of D.C., Toreen was in charge of Nesline, Harding had to go. And that order came down from New York. The person who delivered that order was a guy by the name of Ricci, Tony Ricci. Tony Ricci was the messenger for the Genovese mob. And so I believe that was the setup. So because of Mad Dog's behavior, because of what he did to Waring, and again, you know, Waring's money was being funneled up to New York. So, you know, that was what Harding did was not right as far as the mob was concerned. So his days were numbered, just like other people who lose their lives because they didn't play by the rules. And that's the story behind that. And then the Hideaway Club, because of the murder there was a congressional committee, and also the Hideaway Club was shut down along with a lot of other bottle clubs. The Hideaway Club became the Bayou, a very famous music venue for many years. A lot of big name acts played at the Bayou. It is now, the Hideaway Club is now AMC movie theater in Georgetown.